Hey, Michigan State fans, it's Jacob Katsunika here, back for another edition of the Michigan State Spartans Insider Podcast. Week 3 now here, 3 games into the season. Michigan State moves to 3-0 after a 41-24 win over FCS level Youngstown State. They're 25th ranked in the FCS coaches poll. Coming into today, it's a solid FCS team. I think they were power rated by ESPN SP Plus as about a team of similar caliber as Western Michigan, team in the season opener. But still, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like that was Michigan State's finest performance. Again, 17-point win, really was 10 because they had that garbage time touchdown on the other end of the 2-minute warning. Again, this team has a lot to work on in the coming weeks before we start Big Ten play. They got a big game at USC in LA next week, 11 p.m. kickoff. Gonna need some cups of coffee next Saturday as well to get through that one. But again, I think we need to start probably before we get into the things that Michigan State needs to do better with some of the things that did go well. I think the main thing, the biggest positive takeaway to me is Aiton Childs proved that game against Boston College last week was not a fluke. You can see just how much better accuracy he has, how much more calm he is in the pocket, he's just matured in more ways than one. He made a couple of mistakes today. I think he missed a touchdown to Amari Kelly one time. He was wide open in the end zone. He just straight up missed him. Tried to hurdle a defender when the defender did not go low. That kind of got some laughs in the press conference after the game there. And again, he threw a pick. It wasn't really his fault. Again, tried to get rid of the ball. It got tipped and then right into the hands of one of the defenders. But it wasn't one of those plays where he just totally misread something and then threw it right to someone. So, again, one of those picks where you can kind of forgive it and move on to the next one. Again, that's the main takeaway. That's really the biggest positive takeaway I have from that. Special teams, though, again, were pretty good, though. That's the other thing I'd talk about. Omari Kelly, had a 83-yard punt return. Probably should have housed that thing. Took a really good tackle from a Youngstown State special teamer to keep him out of the end zone there, but they scored on the very next play. It may as well have been worth 6 points in that one. That was a big play from Kelly. He got involved in the pass game as well a bit too. But Martin Connington, a couple easier field goals today. He looked fine. No real complaints from the special teams unit here in this one, besides the fact that Ryan Eckley had one kickoff go out of bounds. Those 10 yards could matter in Big Ten play. So that's something that'll have to get cleaned up during practice with Eckley. But again, Ryan Eckley's Ryan Eckley. I mean, I think he's given, has enough favor in the locker room and with the coaching staff where he can kind of make a mistake like that once in a while. But getting into the things that Michigan State needs to do better. First things first, the defense is really going to have to hunker down in this next week before they go into USC. 24 points against an FCS squad, not amazing. We saw, I think the biggest the biggest complaint overall is just that there were so many chunk plays that Youngstown State had. They had a 66-yard run. There were a couple of plays in the 30s, a lot of some long third down conversions, just some big plays that they were able to get. And again, if you're giving up big chunk plays against an FCS squad, again, this is an above-average FCS team. If the spread for them against Central Michigan would be near zero on a neutral field, you can play worse FCS teams. Michigan State played Prairie View A&M last year. That's a much worse FCS team than what Michigan State played today. Quality FCS opponent, but it's still an FCS opponent nonetheless. But 24 points isn't great. During a regulation contest, it's definitely worse when you compare it to the fact that they gave up 27 against Boston College in regulation as well. So again, only 3 points less against a much worse opponent week over week. So again, that's kind of the thing you want to see during non-conference play, is you just kind of see the team get rise and rise and rise. You definitely saw the team rise between Western Michigan and Boston College, but the defense kind of took a step back today. I think you saw the linebackers get picked on in coverage a fair bit. A couple of throws just go right past their shoulder. Again, those were some of the chunk plays, but again, there was a 66-yard run. That's not really a linebacker issue necessarily. Just kind of slipped through a couple of tackles. Smith seemed to think that they were misaligned Again, I'll have to go back and watch the game again to see maybe what happened on that play. But again, anytime you see a 66-yard run that goes down to the 1, no matter the opponent, against Smoke, against Ohio State, there's a problem there. So that's the big thing there. Would like to see, you want to see them hunker down the red zone a little bit more. I mean, they were able to get some stops when they really needed to. I think one of the big points in this game was right before that Omari Kelly punt return. That was in the third quarter. Michigan State got the ball to open up the second half. They immediately went 3 and out. 3 touches from Mekhi Frazier. They went backwards 5 or 6 yards. They punted away. Michigan State's defense is immediately on the field again, and they force a 3 and out. And that's when Kelly gets that punt return, leads to the touchdown. You get some separation again. It made it a 14-point game. So again, that was a good point for the defense there. There was another point where they forced the field goal attempt and it ended up going up wide right. That was one of the breaks the team got after that Aiden Childs interception, sudden change. They were able to get the stop that they needed to. But moving on from the defense though, the other kind of glaring issue is that you did not see the run game get going today. Not with the running backs. You didn't see Mekhi Frazier. Well, we'll get to Mekhi Frazier and some of the other guys who got hurt in a minute. Excuse me. But Mekhi Frazier, Brandon Tullis, didn't see a whole lot from them today. You didn't really see them get a bunch of big runs like you maybe have saw them in the first couple of games. Tullis, 31 yards on 7 carries. That's not necessarily bad, about 4.5 yards per carry. Frazier, though, 22 yards on 12 carries. Longest run, 5 yards on 12 carries. Obviously, something there wasn't working, whether that be offensive line. Again, this is all stuff, just instant reaction, basically. Maybe it could be an offensive line issue. Maybe Frazier just maybe it just wasn't his day. Sometimes it could be as simple as that. But obviously, when you're talking about less than 2 yards per carry, that's a bit of an issue. Elijah Taliver made the most of his carries today. 22-yard score right at the end of the game. 4 carries, 37 yards for him. But the other thing is you don't want to see, Aiden Childs, again, another plus for him was that he had a really good day on the ground. He had a career high. In fact, 76 rushing yards on 8 attempts for him. So that's obviously big whenever you can really see Michigan State start to see him using his legs a bit more and more and more. Again, they seem to be using it more than they did last year. He made a couple of really big ones. He had a 10-yard run, I believe, on a 4th and 8. That extended a drive, and they eventually got points out of that one, if I remember correctly. So again, it's just another dimension of this offense, which I did think played overall relatively well today. They were pretty efficient with their opportunities. They were solid in the red zone. I thought Brian Lindgren called a relatively good game today. He didn't really seem to get too stale or predictable with the play calls, even against an FCS opponent. You didn't really see too much of a vanilla offense. You're definitely happy to see Rodney Bullard get in the end zone. He had a really nice catch on a 3rd down as well. But again, that's a guy who transferred here from a Division II school. I think he had only really gotten the ball one time, I think, in the first 2 games. It was like a end around for negative or a jet sweep for -2 yards or something. But then he gets it again. This time he's able to run it in for an end zone. It worked. And then again, had a big 3rd down catch as well. I guess that's the other thing that I liked is Nick Marsh. Didn't play in that entire second half. Seemed to have gotten hurt towards the end of the first half. He wasn't a part of that 2-minute drill, that 2-minute drive at the end of the first half. But you still kind of saw the offense able to move the ball. They kind of proved they have the pieces that even without their top receiver, probably maybe the best player on the team, Nick Marsh, that they were able to still be able to go get points again. We're talking about Youngstown State here. We're about to start Big Ten play. Much better teams, much better defenses. But you didn't see them completely panic and all of a sudden they, shut down and don't score anything in the second half, So they were still able to move the ball a fair bit without Nick Marsh. So that's one positive sign, but the injuries were kind of brutal tonight. There's kind of 2 things you want when you have an FCS team on the schedule. The first and foremost, is you win relatively comfortably. You're not sweating it for the whole 60 minutes. Again, not the greatest game of all time as far as margin of victory, but it wasn't really ever in doubt. Michigan State kind of had this game throughout that entire second half. It never really seemed like Youngstown State had a true legitimate chance to win. The second thing you want is to come out of it healthy. We'll see what the updates are on the injuries, but it doesn't seem like Michigan State's going to get out of this game completely healthy. Nick Marsh doesn't play in the second half. Luka Vincic goes down. Mekhi Frazier goes down. I think Connor Moore went down with something. I don't know if he got back in or not. I'm sure there's a couple other people who are missing here too, but there were a lot. It felt like every time there was an injury timeout, it was someone wearing green today. So it was just kind of a tough day on the injury front as well, and that's kind of the last type of thing you want when you're about to go into USC. You're about to go into the LA Coliseum and play a pretty good USC team. They're not ranked right now, as they're playing Purdue as we speak. I'm going to presume that they're going to beat Purdue because they're much better than Purdue. But it's going to be a real challenge for them in Los Angeles next weekend. But again, they play the games for a reason. It's a big opportunity for them to go and steal a win on the West Coast against a blue blood of the sport. It's going to be a late night. Plenty of West Coast. Most of the TV audience might be West Coasters for that one, but it's still a Big Ten opener, road game. It's going to be a fun game, probably for Aiden Childs going back to California as well. And we'll keep providing you coverage of that game as any other. I'll still be in East Lansing, though. I'm not making the trip out to Los Angeles, but we'll be providing coverage throughout the week and tell you all what I see during the game as well. And thank you guys for watching. Continue to keep watching these podcasts. Continue to keep checking on the website. I'm Jacob Katsanika, and that's all I have for you today. I'll see you guys around.